Good morning, everyone. It is 8:30 a.m. in beautiful San Angelo, Texas. And I'd like to call the meeting of the City of San Angelo Development Corporation to order. Today is the 23rd day of April in the year 2015. Sorry, I did not ask in advance, but Tommy, would you open us with prayer, please?
I'll be glad to.
Thank you.
Dear God, we thank you just for another day of life. There's probably many things we could complain about, but help us to hold our tongue today and do our best to at least keep silent or say thank you. Be with us as we listen today, as we talk today, as we deliberate today, that we may do so in a spirit of civility and kindness, and also with your wisdom and your discernment. And I pray these things in your Son's name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Tommy. I'd like to welcome again everyone here. We now move on to item B on our agenda, which unfortunately we're going to have to skip. Our guest of honor, Scott Tankersley, had unexpectedly go out of town, so we will simply skip over that and postpone it to the next meeting. Next is item C, public comment. The board takes public comment on all items in the regular agenda. Public input on a regular agenda item will be taken at its appropriate discussion. Public input on any item not on the agenda or consent agenda may be identified and requested for consideration by the board at this time. The board may request that an item be placed on a future agenda or for a consent agenda item to be moved to the regular agenda for public comment. Is there any public comment? I don't see anyone just jumping up and running to the podium, so we'll move on. Let's see, the consent agenda. We have two items here. Consideration of approving the March 25th, 2015 minutes of the City of San Angelo Development Corporation, COSA DC, and consideration of approving necessary corporation disbursements.
Move approval of the consent agenda. Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion from the board? Any comment from the public? Then I'll call for the vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Both items pass. Now we move on to the regular agenda. Consideration of approving the March 2015 financial statements and any action in connection thereto. And we have Ms. Rebecca Tambuga.
Good morning.
Rebecca.
Morning.
Morning.
Okay, on the March financials, on page 1, the executive summary, we have an unreserved fund balance on the economic development side of $8.6 million. And on the unreserved fund balance for the ballot side of $721,000. I did want to make note in February, we did exceed the $1 million. We actually received $1,036,000. But for March, we did receive $719,000. That was up 10% compared to last March in 2014. Year to date, we are in excess of $629,000. On page 3, we'll take a look at the balance sheet for the economic development side. Our cash and investments of $9.8 million, receivable of $429,000, and our fixed assets being reported at $3.1 million. For the fund equity side, we have a designation for our economic development projects at $1.6 million. We'll take a look at that breakout on page 5. And then we have a reserved for those fixed assets at 3.1, bringing us to that unreserved fund balance on the economic development side of $8.6 million. The revenue and expense report for the economic development side, our revenues, majority being sales tax. We did receive some reimbursements from MedHab for some utilities of $1,000. Total revenues were $258,000. And on the expenditures, we had $14,000 for administrative, mainly being the insurance payment, as well as some BRC and CVCED. Total expenses were $16,000. We were revenue over expenditures of $242,000. Page 5 is the economic development projects. We did remove the Ethicon project that was being budgeted at $300,000, so that did bring our commitment down to $1.6 million. On the balance sheet for the ballot side, We have our cash and investments of $6.7 million, our receivable of $1.1 million. On the fund equity, we have a designation for affordable housing of $244,000. We have a designation for voter-approved projects of $3.3 million, and a designation for debt service of $3.5 million. And we will be making that payment next month in May. This brings us to our unreserved fund balance of $721,000. The revenue and expense report for the ballot side. Our revenue, sales tax being $660,000. On the expenditures, we only had affordable housing of $46,000. Revenue over expenditures of $615,000. Page 8 gives you the ballot projects. The sports facility maintenance, as you did see, that's on the April disbursements for this month, making half a payment for that. We'll make the other half at the end of the year in September. We do still have affordable housing commitment of $244,000. This brings the total commitment for ballot projects of $512,000. Pages 9 through 15 give you the transaction detail by account. And then the last few pages, 16 through 19, give you some information on the voter-approved projects, which in March we didn't have a lot of activity on those. So. This wraps up the March financials.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions for Rebecca?
One question. Back on the, I'll find it later.
While Richard's looking, I have a couple, I'd say, high-level questions. What time frame was the February sales tax for the $1 million? Would that be the Christmas season?
Yes, December.
Okay.
So
All right.
the holiday season.
Sales, good.
Okay, on the ballot sheet, what is the receivable for 1.1 million?
The sales tax receivable.
Oh, okay.
Yes, sir.
Investment in with the cash that we have, is that pooled with the cities in the tax pool, or do we have a separate tax pool account for Development Corporation?
We do have a separate tax pool account from the Development Corporation. We use the same bank institutions as the city, but we do have our separate checking and a tax pool account.
Good, thanks.
Okay, are there any other questions from the board?
I move that we approve the financials as presented.
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion from the floor? Questions from the floor? With that, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That also carries. Thank you very much, Rebecca.
Thank you.
Okay, our next item on the agenda is presentation and update regarding the fiscal year 2014-2015 second quarter report on affordable housing assistance program. And I believe we have Robert Salas here today. Good morning, Robert.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Before I get into the status of the projects, I want to give you just a quick overview of the program. For some of you who don't know the program very well. This is the affordable housing component of the half-cent sales tax was approved back in 2005. My department took it over in 2009. We're allocated $335,000 a year. We carry out the primary program, which is gap financing for first-time home buyers. And it's we do cap it at $40,000 for new construction. We do include, over that $40,000, we include up to $5,000 on for property. We used to use the foreclosed city-sponsored properties, but we ran out of those, so there aren't very many. So now we allow the contractors to go, the clients to go out there and find a lot on their own, and then we go up to $5,000 for it. So that's kind of like, now we do secure our investment with a deferred loan and deed. Now we do have guidelines that we posted on our website under the Community and Housing Division. If you want to go take a look at those, about 13-pager, but it kind of outlines everything about that program as it is right now. Okay, so I encourage you to go by and read it. It's just great reading. when we first started this, like I said, we didn't take it all over until 2009. We created a huge fund balance at that point, and that allowed us to do a variety of different projects, short-term projects, and those included neighborhood blitzes, helping to replace siding and paint houses. I think we've done over 76 houses based on that. We did rehabs, we did roof replacement programs, and we actually built 6 spec homes, and we built them and we sold them. So those are some of the things we did with that fund balance. Once we got through that fund balance, we're now basically focusing on the core program, which is that gap financing program. So, and here's kind of our status for the to date, if you will. We've spent $1.9 million so far, and we built 48 new homes. We spent $480,000 on neighborhood blitzes, and we replaced siding and painted 126 homes. We spent $150,000 on 60 units that we remodeled over there in our target neighborhoods. We replaced 112 new roofs, built those 6 homes. And we actually committed $200,000 last year, 2 years ago, to support what we call tax credit projects. Those are affordable housing projects that developers compete for at the state level, usually apartments. In this case, we were trying to get 50 townhomes over there in the Fort Contra area. So and they get points based on city commitment. So if the city supports a resolution for that property or for that development, or they commit funds, they get so many points, and they can become very competitive. That's one area that potentially this board could participate in. They come in every year. They're always interested in coming to San Angelo. We basically lose out to Odessa and Midland pretty much every year because we do not commit funds. Odessa Midland, they'll commit up to $1 million for the project. So these are $6-7 million developments, apartments mostly, but we can do single-family houses, which we did in Blackshear. We can do townhomes, which we tried 2 years ago. So those are the kind of things that I would encourage the board to consider. If you want to change up some of our programs, that's something that we may be able to do. One of the things that these developers like to do is come and ask for pass-through loans. That provides points as well. So if I'm a developer, I want to come to San Angelo, I get the resolution of support from the council, but I need a loan, and it's called pass-through. It happens pretty quickly. They find a bank. The board, the coastal DC will actually be the recipient of that loan for a very short period of time, and then it passes through to the developer. There's no risk for the board. We get a little bit of money, and they get the points, and that's something we want to probably consider next year. It's too late for this year because all the applications have been submitted, but I would encourage that the board consider that next year, and we'll be coming to you with that recommendation. Okay.
Those projects you mentioned, those tax credit projects, are all projects that will go on the tax rolls. On which,
absolutely.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely, they do.
Yes.
They do. First of all, they hire local contractors, so you're going to have people hired, and there's going to be money, and there's going to be wages spent there, and then the materials, of course, and then the actual property taxes come to us. So it's right up your alley, I think. We should consider it. So anyway.
Yep. Well,
that's all I've got, and if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Are there any other questions?
Thanks, Bob.
Good.
Thank you very much, Bob.
Thanks.
And though I didn't mention it, and Bob, you did great, actually, but we'd like for the presenters to be concise and not make this an all-day project. Don't worry, Carl, we don't
as
think
Carl
you're
steps to the
podium. Just as a general ground rule,
I can be as concise as you want me to be.
there you go.
For last time.
We just don't want folks stepping up to the podium and filling the air with noise just for the sake of they've got the microphone. And Not accusing anybody, just keeping it all light.
Thanks, Bob.
He's going to say any questions.
And now our next item is a presentation and update on the Ballot Park project status. And we have Mr. Carl White.
Yes, sir. I'm here to report on our projects that have half-cent sales tax funding. I'll answer any questions you may have. If I don't have the answer, I'll make note of it, and we'll get the answer to you. So if you've seen in the handout, there's several projects that we have working, different stages of development, including the auditorium. Just a quick update on that. Of course, as you know, the architect and the construction manager at risk are on board. They're all working together with all the engineers, structural equipment engineers, to make sure everything's right. Of course, there's different steps to this project, including demolition, renovation of the auditorium, and then construction of the annex. We've got to make sure everything is right before we get the guaranteed maximum price and bring it back to City Council so we can move forward with that project. And we hope to have all that in June so we can move forward. I know everybody's ready for this project to get going. Convention Center Marquee, as you know, we had some funds left over from the renovation of this facility. We matched that with some city funds to get enough funds to put out some proposals for a new marquee for the Convention Center. So we've done that. We've gotten proposals back. We were in the process of evaluating those and scoring those. We anticipate taking a request to award a bid for that in one of the meetings in May, hopefully the first meeting in May, so we can move forward with that project as well. Jaime Padron Memorial Park, also previously known as Rio Vista Park, had some half-cent sales tax funding. The only thing left on that is some landscaping. Of course, that was put on hold because of the drought. Thankfully, we've had better conditions this spring. We've already geared up to do the turf planting this spring, and then we'll follow up with some tree planting this coming fall and winter. So that'll finish that project. Several things with the river project. Most of the remaining funds, as directed by council, are going to be spent in the Bosque area. As you know, part of that was developed with the washer pitching playing area, the chessboard, bocce ball area. We've gotten direction to do some site work on the rest of that property, build the concession building. As you know, we've already awarded that bid. We're working through now to get permits on the construction of that. We're negotiating with the company to do the putt-putt golf course, and then we'll finish out the rest of that area. We hope to do all that work this summer. It won't be ready for Riverfest. I wish that it were, but we went by last night to just to see what was going on, and there's a lot of people out. The weather was great. The Bosque, once we get that all developed, it's going to be a destination. And there's also miscellaneous things we're doing along the river for improvements, including planting grass because the conditions are good. That's coming to half-cent sales tax, and miscellaneous projects, as you see in the report. Bradford Park, it's one of the park renovation projects listed under city parks for half-cent sales tax. That's on the north side of town by Bradford Elementary. We're going to renovate that park. That property is now school district property. They acquired it through friendly condemnation some years back, but we got the okay to do the improvements there because it'll serve the school and it'll serve the neighborhood as a neighborhood park. That project has been delayed because an in-house crew is doing that project, and they've been finishing up the hardscape and landscaping around City Hall, which looks pretty darn good. As you note, the playground equipment has been purchased for that. We hope to begin that project here hopefully next month. Railroad Trail, I think somebody else is reporting on that. Love Municipal Pool, the only thing left there again is the landscaping. We did plant turf there last fall. It's gotten well established. We just have a little bit of planting to do in the minimal plantings around the beds around the building. And that'll finish that. Fort Concho Visitor Center, Bob Bluehart's working with our legal department, negotiating with Antonora Architects to come up with the plan, the vision for the visitor center at Fort Concho. Now this first consultant isn't charged yet with doing any construction documents. This is just creating the plan so we can get other folks on board, show what the vision is, get some grant funds and other donations, other funding. We hope to take that agreement to council early this summer. Sports facilities, back in 2008, 2009, Harold Dominguez had given us direction to put that project on hold because at that time we were in the recession, watching our budgets very carefully. There was some concern about taking on new properties and the cost of maintaining those. So that project, for me, has been on hold since that time. Soccer complex, parking improvements. We're supposed to match some half-cent sales tax monies. We got $75,000 from half-cent sales tax to match with the Soccer Association to do some parking improvements out there. It's been kind of delayed to get them to kind of commit to that, but they have done some parking improvements on their own. We're going to proceed with some parking improvements on our own, coordinated with them, using the $75,000. Our operations department is getting bids on doing that work for this summer. So we'll see how far $75,000 gets us. It'll probably at least be able to do one of the large parking lots out there, which is needed. And then, if you notice, the funds still remain in the tennis facility. Those were intentionally left over for long-term maintenance if we have to redo the courts, resurface the courts, and do any other work that's associated with the facility. If you have any questions.
No, thank you, Carl. That was excellent.
Thank you.
Is there any comment or question from the public? Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Carl.
Our next item, I should have mentioned, that was item 4, and we'll call that 4A because there was an inadvertent duplication of number 4 on our sheet, on our agenda. So we'll move on to what we'll call 4B, the presentation and update on the ballot park projects. I'm sorry, that was the 4B. I'm getting flustered. First time up here as official president, and I'm tripping. Okay, now we'll go to 5. Update and presentation of the ballot city water supply projects. And we have Bill Riley here. Hi, Bill.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good to see you. I did have was going to take you on a quick tour through the groundwater facility via photographs, if you would like me to forego that in the interest of being concise.
Well, I think we actually had a walkthrough fairly recently.
Okay.
If
We did.
nothing's changed, let's skip it.
Let me just, absolutely, let me just give you the update of where things are. In the well field of the original 9 wells are in place and operating. They produce about 5 million gallons a day, and that water is available. The other 6 wells, 4 are complete. 1 is being pump tested now, and then they're drilling the final one. The entire well field is anticipated to be complete end of October, 1st of November. The groundwater treatment facility has been declared administratively substantially complete, which means that we've actually taken over the facility and are operating it. It is operating as we speak. And so as we go through the process of startup and trying to determine or work out all of the bugs, we are actually using that water. It's going into the system. So it goes through the plant, blended with the other water, and we are drinking it. The iron and radium removal facilities are working excellent, and so the water that is being produced is excellent quality water. The final completion of that should be within about 3 weeks, so all's good there. The Red Arroyo project, we have worked out a deal with the landowner that owns part of the property where that basin would be to put the monitoring wells in that site. Those should be in place within the next 2 weeks, and they should be there about a year monitoring the groundwater to fully understand the impacts of that on that project. So that's moving forward as well. The reuse study, we have the draft report, currently reviewing that. Anticipate having a final report sometime in May, taking that to the Water Advisory Board and hopefully to the in end of May and hopefully to the council in June.
Wonderful.
Good.
That's it.
Any questions from the board?
All right.
Thank you for being so concise.
Thanks, Bill.
Okay, the next item is the presentation and update on the Red Arroyo Trails project and Paul Ann Boulevard, Smith Boulevard projects. And for this, we have our Water Utilities Assistant Director, Russell, is that Peel?
It is actually Pale, but I'm standing in for Russell. He's actually at another
Okay.
meeting this morning.
Thank you.
So, Lance Overstreet from Engineering Services.
Thank you, Lance.
I'm actually the project engineer that's in charge of those 2 projects, and he asked me to come and give you guys an update on that. So I'll start with the Paul Ann Smith Boulevard project. The status on that is they have recently started construction again. They had a few months that they had delayed because of some fiber optic utility locates. So that is back on track now, back on schedule with the delay. They are striping that, and the last item will be to go through and add some concrete to one of the drainage flumes in that area, and that project would be complete at that point. We're looking at it, weather permitting and cooperating, sometime in the middle of May, and it could be quite a bit sooner. The problem we have is that we have rough graded a drainage swell to prepare for the concrete, and then we got rain, and so now we can't compact it until the rain is, until it's dried up. So that'll happen soon. There have been no really major changes on that project. Budget-wise, they're on track with it. There was a couple of little items that we had to dip into some contingency for, I believe around 27 feet of curb that was missed on the plans, but still it's within budget, and so that's tracking great. The Red Arroyo project is proceeding as scheduled. It has a scheduled completion date sometime around September. We're about halfway through that schedule and about 30% complete. The reason the schedule isn't quite matching is because some of the more difficult things that we've been doing, like the bridge piers and those types of things, a little more time consuming. There has been a major change that has taken place on that. The contractor is going to, for the same cost, pour conventional concrete for that trail as opposed to the RCC at the same price. So, that's no cost for us, and it'll still be, same quality 6-inch thick trail in that area. Budget-wise, we're on track with that, and everything else is proceeding with that. We are, I'm sure if you guys have driven by, you've seen the major stockpiles of dirt around that area that's coming out, not going in, and so it's just the timing and sequencing on all of that. So,
What are you doing with all that dirt you're taking out, Lance?
what are we doing with the dirt? The contract stated that particular dirt had to be removed from the floodplain. That most of those stockpiles are mitigation ponds based upon the hydraulics that have gone on with the bridges that are crossing the Red Arroyo. And so as a part of that contract, the contract said excavate and remove. So the dirt contractor has possession of that to do with as he
Sees fit.
sees fit. That was
Gotcha.
all part of his bid item.
I got you.
So-
Thanks. Okay, thanks.
Okay. Are the trails in a state right now that the public could traverse significant parts of it just to see what's going on
There are
beyond College Hills and
not
such?
at this point, no.
Okay.
There are portions of it that have been put in place, and most of those have been the interconnecting portions that have quite a bit more formwork needed
Okay.
around the parking lots and around the interchanges and things like that. This week, they actually started pouring larger portions of the trail. They are hoping to have a production rate of about 1,000 foot per week, starting this week. And so we're going to start seeing a lot of, major, headway on those.
What is that actual distance from Knickerbocker over to Sherwood Way?
I'm not sure what the straight line distance is. If I were to guess, I'm going to say it's probably around 2.5 miles approximately. The total trail is 3.8 miles, but there is like a 2-mile loop in the middle of College Hills area, and then there's another 1-mile loop on the other side of College Hills. We're kind of near Unidad. So.
It's
I
great.
know there's a lot of public interest
Yeah,
in
there
this
is a lot of,
project.
creates
Yes.
a lot of conversation, yeah. It's
Yes.
All
good.
these guys know what RCC means, but I don't. Can you-
Roller compacted concrete.
Oh, okay.
Is what that is. And so the roller compacted concrete comes out of a machine at a very dry, dense. They roll it once and it's done. The reason the contractor has asked for the change is there is a very high cost to mob a batch plant out that can keep up with that machinery. You can't have enough trucks or enough production rate of trucks coming in to meet the speed that system is going. So they actually have to have a batch plant on site, all the stockpiles on site. And typically a 3-mile trail like that, 3 to 4 mile trail would probably only take 2 to 3 days doing roller compacted. But so the contractor has opted to go conventional. So he's having about 10 trucks, 8 to 10 trucks a day come in to meet his production rate, so.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lance.
Are there
Absolutely.
any other questions? And any questions from the public? With that, we thank you very much. Okay, we're now up to item number 7 on the agenda. Presentation and update regarding the fiscal year 2014-2015 second quarter report by the Chamber of Commerce Economic Development. And while we were scheduled to have Michael Looney in-house, he is out of town, so we have Phil Neighbors. Welcome, Phil.
Thank you very continuing the theme of brevity, you have me instead of Michael. I'll go ahead and do that.
Very good.
We'll all be your friends, Phil.
And so, in that light, what I would like to do is, I've given you a more detailed report than I'm going to communicate, obviously. So, I'm going to just highlight a few of the things that you have in your report and then answer questions, starting with Texas Energy Aggregation. That's number 1 on page 1, and I hand wrote the pages in because I thought I hit pagination when I copied them, but I didn't, obviously, so that's why they're hand numbered. Of course, this is the company that does high-value commercial energy contracts with commercial development, private sector providers. They've hired 6, the last I heard, at very good salaries and benefits, and of course, Workforce brought some folks together that were so good. I think their first time they hired all of them that were assembled, and they continued to hire more. Their plan is to be up to 15 at the end of the year and work a region from here. So that's a great win for us. Page 2, the Project Textile. This is a small manufacturing company in our region that also does some retail, and they're looking for a San Angelo site right now. They've been referred to Del Velasquez downtown to look for a downtown site, and city staff, I believe, has been working on some kind of zoning that would allow manufacturing in the downtown central business district as well as some retail, and I believe they think they have an option if a site can be. And so if anybody knows any more on these as I go through, please add. But is that accurate, Roland?
That is accurate. I think Dale has been working with planning and development services with that, but that's correct.
Okay, good. The next one we listed, we better keep going here, is Frontier Communications. And as we all know, this is a very large transaction that would stand to be approved probably early in 2016. The day after we heard about this, we made contact with them, utilizing some folks retired with Verizon here. The idea being that we wanted to get San Angelo in front of them as quickly as possible in order to talk about not only the physical assets, but also the people that we have here and what a good place this would be. Of course, it has a lot of potential either way because they indicate that they may have excess facilities, so some communities may be losers in an eventual takeover. Other communities, they say, they would consolidate into. So as we made contact with them immediately, they said they appreciated it. Would we please leave them alone for 60 to 90 days while they put together a transition team? But then in March, we got one of the 4 or 5 folks we reached out to with Frontier got back to us and said, hey, would you send us a short PowerPoint that is just under the theme, why San Angelo? So we consolidated into about 12, 14 slides. They did receive it. They thanked us for it. We offered to go up and meet with them, and they said, still not yet. We will be in touch with you. So if anybody wants a copy of that, of course, we can provide that as well. Sunbelt Construction is actively pursuing contracts and jobs here. One of the neat things about them is that they're also already volunteering a lot in the community, such as they're taking part in the groundbreaking today with Project Finally Home. So they're giving a lot to the community while also hopefully keeping some of the contracts that might have otherwise gone out of town. So we hope they continue to grow and do well. For some prospects that we're engaged with right now, we'll look at a few here. Here's Project Glass. It's a construction component manufacturing company that is growing and will hopefully need more space and more workforce. I believe that Bob Schneeman is waiting on some information from them. I don't know if he's gotten it yet, but that's the last I heard. Do you know, Roland?
I do not.
Okay.
I do not.
So we'll follow up. I know Michael will be following up with that one next week. Project Highway, the second one listed there, large highway construction equipment manufacturer from Louisiana that we've been working with for some time that we hope might expand into our area. The third one there is Project Steel, which would be a large acreage project, not as many people, but they are looking for about 100 acres on a rail spur, more or less a rail port type project. And this is probably long-term given the economy right now in energy, but I know Michael continues to interact with them at least every few weeks to every month. And then Project Water is an existing company that is a fabricator of multi-industry components and large industrial radiators. This is a local existing company that is looking for a larger facility, and Michael has engaged with them, and I think the other allies have too. And they would need additional workforce and larger space. So that's a quick look at some of the prospects. As far as current and future activities, of course, you all know COSIDC has been working for many months to finalize the McCallum-Sweeney AEP, is that the term of it, certification?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and so when that happens, of course, we're going to gear up to really more heavily promote it with brochures and interactive website. In fact, there's a link to one that I think Michael wants to fashion our link after. We're waiting on some information, which I think is already due pretty soon from KSA Engineers.
That's correct.
And when we get that, we will populate the brochures, the website, and really try to promote that, and possibly look at other allies promoting that. But we think it will really showcase the park as we haven't done in recent years. Okay, so next, just a comment, the alloy fabrication and manufacturing is really a target group that Michael has been focusing on with some of our local companies, as well as in some of the trade shows that he has been going to. And of course, we have a cluster here of existing employers, and it's also an industry that could utilize some of those who are being laid off in the energy industry right now. And so we're really focusing a lot in that area, and you'll see some discussion there about some of our activities in that area. And then jumping over to page 7, there's a summary of some of the trade shows that Michael has worked so far this year, and I'm just going to talk about 3 of them. The Hustex Industrial Manufacturing Show. There's a lot of information in the packet. There's a list of the exhibitors, and there's some information on the prospects that have already been followed up with, and then the plans to follow up with additional ones. He was very high on that show. Number 2, AeroDef, that's where Michael is today, and that is commercial aerospace manufacturing and defense aerospace manufacturing, along with composites of those areas as well. And I didn't talk to him yesterday, but I believe Tony did, so I think he was very busy yesterday, and hopefully he'll bring back some good opportunities for follow-up from that show. And then FabTech Chicago is the next major one that I know of that Michael is going to do in this particular targeted area. It takes place in November, and he hopes to take some economic allies from here, as well as some people in existing businesses and industries from here to go with him to work the floor, because it's just a very large show, and we would not be exhibiting, we would be calling on those for potential future activity. Okay, so you'll see a lot of pictures that follow. Then on page 13, there's again a list of exhibitors at the Hustex show. And let me just highlight a few of the things that we're doing in our lead areas with a strategic plan for economic development. First of all, Goodfellow Air Force Base has been in the news a lot lately, but we do leave next week for our annual visit to Washington, and we have very good appointments, NSA, the Pentagon. The focus of our trip this year will be really twofold. Number one, expanding ISR, intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance, particularly as it relates to cyber. I read in the online Air Force magazine this week that they're about halfway through with standing up what they hope to bring about as far as additional education, and we talk to them every year when we go, plus in between, because we think that's a great opportunity for us to expand the intel portion, focusing on cyber. The other area that we're going to focus on is international training, particularly in the ISR area. Again, we do have a lot of international, Saudi in particular, and a number of other countries who are bringing their pilots and other military members here to train in intel. And the numbers are growing, but we think that the plans, if we read the tea leaves correctly, are to expand that area a lot. So we're going to be meeting with the individual at the Pentagon in charge of the international training, also meeting with those in charge of firefighting and ISR. And so we hope that it proves to be another fruitful trip. Of course, a lot of you know that we won that San Angelo won the Altus Award, signifying the best base community relationship in the AETC. So a lot. And as far as the Goodfellow Community Partnership initiatives, there are now 9 initiatives that are signed and underway, and several more that are being worked on. So a lot of activity in that area. Addressing the employer issues through BREP continues to be something that is ongoing. The only one that I'll mention here, the second bullet, was one in which we had 8 existing companies that we visited with about a potential development that could impact their access to their locations. And so we brought them in individually with TxDOT, with city staff. Roland attended some of them and really worked with them. And as a result of that, we've worked with 2 of them on additional issues having to do with their markets and transportation access. So I think that potential development is still alive, and so we'll continue to work with those businesses. But that's a good example of what I believe that this goal means in really bringing everybody together to help existing businesses who might be able to speak to their issues. Then the next one is collaborating with Texas Pacifico and advocating for the Presidio Bridge. And I think the most important aspect is still the Presidio Bridge, which I call them on a regular basis every month. And actually in the last call they said no later than the 4th quarter of this year they expect to start construction, so maybe 3rd quarter. So we'll just have to see how quickly that moves forward with TxDOT. But let me call attention to the last bullet under that goal, because our plan is to work with all the communities along that route once the construction starts, because that would give us enough time to really work with the allies in the West Texas region and look at a plan that would do just what we want: increase trade from Mexico and increase the traffic on the rail line, as well as other opportunities for us to grow here in San Angelo. And then finally, identify supply chain opportunities with Mexico. And there is a phone call that I believe will be taking place, and maybe a visit even this Friday, of one opportunity I just learned right before the meeting that a local businessman has brought about that we're going to work with. And there's not much change on this last bullet here on the Maquila relationships, but I will mention that I visited yesterday I did a welcome for this group that's in the other end of the convention center, the North American Development Bank and the Border Environmental Cooperation Commission. The first one is headquartered out of San Antonio. The other one is in Juarez. And they're actually merging these two organizations that are authorized by both the Mexican and the U.S. national governments. So they've come here with a facilitator to work through how to, and they've worked together very well, but both governments said we can realize some savings and probably some better working together if we merge into one international commission. And so I met with a couple of their leaders yesterday before the welcome, and what I did learn is that their basic purpose is to fund infrastructure projects in border communities, maybe 100 miles from the border on either side. But what I didn't know until yesterday is that they also advocate for private sector projects as well on both sides of the border. So I have those contacts right now to really focus on this goal a little bit more in the future. Their goal, I think, is to be merged within a year, but they're already doing some things to work together. And so they're very, as of last night, they had a great time in downtown San Angelo. They're very excited to be here, and we're very excited that they're here. Actually, our Convention Visitors Bureau worked with them a lot before they got here. So a very good group, about 110 folks. That is a fairly quick overview, and I'd be happy to try to answer any questions or hear any comments if you have any.
Well, Phil, we certainly appreciate you making the presentation. And if you would pass along to Michael next time you have a chance to talk to him, we see how hard he's working.
Great. I certainly will.
And the results of his efforts are sometimes difficult to measure, because we like to think of businesses that actually come and establish. But without his contact, none of those seeds could ever come to fruit.
Thank you. Very good point.
And we appreciate all the sowing he's doing.
Well, I will tell him that right after I tell him that I did a dig on his speaking. So that will be the more positive part. But
yes,
I will just echo what I know all of us continue to say as our allies. We appreciate the cooperation and the working together that's going on. So thank you for your support of our activities.
Thank you, Phil.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is discussion and consideration of approving the draft fiscal year 2015-2016 budget. And we have Mr. Roland Pena. Thank you, Nora.
Yeah.
Morning, Board.
Good morning, Roland.
I want to echo what you said, Mr. President. I also want to send a message to Michael Looney. Phil, if you let him know that I really liked his PowerPoint presentation. I thought it was concise and succinct, and you tell him it was one of his best presentations.
Tell him he'd gotten some more hair since the last time we talked.
Board members, I'm coming back to you with the budget. You gave me some tasks last month, and we addressed over the interim. I addressed a couple of questions that you had. Number one was the question about the Ports to Plains. I did have an opportunity to visit with Councilwoman Farmer, and then we did talk to the Executive Director for Ports to Plains, Michael Reeves. And what we currently have, according to their bylaws, is they assign one person per county. The Development Corporation does pay the dues for the city of San Angelo. And we also have an advisory board member who is from the private sector that pays his dues. Both of them serve on the Ports of Plains Board of Directors. However, in talking to Michael Reeves, he has discussed this with the chairman, and they can make an additional board member with an advisory capacity made available to the board. And they're going to be discussing that today with the Councilwoman Farmer. As you know, they're in Washington, D.C., conducting their own congressional visits. This is an annual event. But I thought that seemed to be a really good offer for us in terms of having 2 board members for the price of 1 on the board. No other county has that, and so I thought that would be a good offer for us. So that was one question that you had. The other question was with regard to legal expenses. If you noticed, I've increased that amount by an additional $20,000. And so that was the second item that we talked about. There's also a third increase in staff services. This is new, and it's transpired over the course of the last 30 days. It's something I've been thinking about, and I don't know if I've shared it with the board. But we do have accounting that we do for the CVCED portion of our responsibilities, and I've asked our finance group to take a look at that and see if they can assume those responsibilities. They are the experts, and I would really like to see those books operate the way they should be conducted, and make sure the fiscal control is there as well, and the audit assurance. And so there's a small increase of I think about $1,600 to that amount. So those are 3 increases that I've added to the budget. Other than that, the rest of the budget remains the same. We're still awaiting the revenue projections from Morgan, and I believe that won't come until June. So at this point, I am open to answering any questions, and you're free to take whatever action you feel you'd like to take with regard to the budget.
So one of my questions was the Ports to Plains thing. So it sounds like they are at least willing, and I guess the way you said it, their board is going to discuss it today, or is it just simply a one-on-one discussion with Councilmember Farmer and Mr. Reeves or whomever?
I spoke to Michael Reeves on Friday, and he had not spoken to Councilwoman Farmer. And he wanted to take the opportunity to present that to her. I don't see how that would be an issue with Councilwoman Farmer. So my guess is that if she's comfortable with it, I think we're pressing on, moving forward with that. It seemed to be a good solution for us, and I think it's sort of an advantageous for Tom Green County and San Angelo.
So our approval then is just, it would be a matter of this board then appointing at some future time. We don't have to do it today, I wouldn't think, but at some future time, a member from our board to serve in that board member capacity.
Yes. In fact, I've invited Michael to come to our May board meeting, and perhaps by that time we can put that on the agenda and put that one to rest.
Okay, great. Sounds good.
Sounds like good progress on that.
Yeah, I like that personally. So we can have, since we're expending our funds, and with two sets of eyes and 2 sets of ears, maybe collaboration with Councilmember Farmer that can give us a little bit more than what we've had. Not that she's not done a good job at all, but more ideas and so forth. So good.
Michael is coming to present before the Council of Governments, I believe, May 15th, May 10th, somewhere in that neighborhood. If you, I may be able to set up a one-on-one if you're interested with him, and we can talk. Maybe set up a meeting with him and have some board members visit with him and talk more about that if you'd like, in advance of the meeting.
Okay, good.
I think that any board members that were interested in filling that slot would be key invitees.
Okay. We are well ahead of the budget process, but again, it's your discretion if you want to approve what you see or if you want to wait. I'd really, I think at this point, I'm going to ask Morgan if she would come up and give us just a update on the status of the budget process.
I agree.
As we're waiting for Morgan, in
Do you
the
have some
time that I've
questions?
been on this board, we've never been this early, so it feels really good to
It's good. That's
to
far.
have this kind of time and not have to be making last-minute decisions on what's important for our future. So I greatly appreciate the team putting this together
Absolutely.
with great timing.
Absolutely.
Morgan, how are we doing on timing for submittal of the budget?
Good morning, Morgan.
Good morning. In May, the rest of the organization will begin preparing their expense budgets, and in June, we will have first draft before the budget staff review for consideration, and then we'll continue sharpening our pencil on revenue estimates in July and ultimately take for adoption in August. And so we would need something before the committee for June, and so you're, again, well ahead of that deadline.
Seems to me that, since we are in such good shape, maybe we wait until the month of May to do our, I'll say, formal approval, just in case something else comes up in the next 30 days that we need to tweak. But it seems to me we are through your leadership role, and we're in a great position because of starting when we did. So I echo what Tony said. Man, it feels good to be here rather than rushing around at the end. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Maureen. And actually, I have a lot of help with budget and finance, and they work with me behind the scenes. We spend a lot of time on this, and really, you presented this last year when I came on board that you'd like to see us stay ahead of the game, and so it's really at your request, your urging, and we're just meeting that request, and so it's a team effort. So appreciate that. Okay.
If it is the consensus of the board, we'd probably table this
Till May.
decision till next month?
Yep, sounds good.
Okay.
And then if you have any tweaks rolling in
Yeah.
May for whatever reason, then we can make the final adjustment and formally approved in May. So it'll be ready to go for all that in June.
Okay.
Proactive is far better than reactive.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Good.
I agree.
Thank you.
Good work.
Okay. Was that it for that item, Roland?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we'll move on to item 9. Discussion and consideration of modifying the Coast of DC disbursement policy to require issuance of checks equal to or greater than $1,000 for routine and pre-approved projects and professional service agreements. And again, floor is yours, Roland.
This item is more administrative. As you have noticed on the background information, this really helps to improve the process and efficiency. What we've had, and it only deals with checks that are equal to or greater than $1,000. I am recommending a revision to the disbursement policy because we've encountered some situations during the course of the year. In particular, those contracts that the board has already approved. And I'll give you an example. Perhaps the Red Arroyo, the Paul Ann Smith Boulevard, the Air Service Marketing. You know that we've sort of tightened the review and scrutiny of the invoices that are coming in. And so a lot of times those invoices may come in beyond the time frame, beyond our deadline for submitting our disbursements to to finance, and so it goes through a vetting and sort of a review and quality control for us. So these are contracts that you have already approved. There is a delay if we have to send back that invoice, and they'll have to wait an additional month. So I wanted to present this to the board and see if you agree that some of these expenses can be paid. The board still reviews those disbursements. They appear on your disbursement every month, and you provide that affirmation of those expenses. And so, again, we're following the policy. We're reviewing the supporting documentation. We're making sure that it is contract compliant, and the analysis for that expenditure is part of that justification. And if it's not, then obviously we don't put our signature for approval.
Since we've gone to the one meeting a month, two meeting, I knew some of these things were going to be coming up, so I think this is just a prudent way how to efficiently let staff operate in a manner that it's timely with the contractors that we've already agreed and have contracts in place.
Yeah, especially since we already have contracts in place. Yeah,
So.
You're providing that oversight. So as one board member, I think this is a good move, and we've talked a lot about moving at the speed of business. To me, this helps us move at the speed of business and not delay folks with whom we are doing business. So I think this is a good move.
I think it'll be helpful with that relationship with those vendors. There's another piece to the disbursement policy, this non-routine items. We just couldn't determine what the definition of that was, what that meant, and so we're recommended that for administrative purposes that we eliminate that clause. Didn't have a lot of discussion with Tina and Jaime Guerrero, who's back there, and so that's the purpose for eliminating that.
I'd move approval to the revised disbursement policy, to the COSA-DC revised disbursement policy.
In considering this, I'd just like for us to open-mindedly look at a failure mode if, for whatever reason, we were short-staffed and this review process could not take place. I'd like to see something that would default to a slower process. I trust the staff we have in place right now, I think is essentially what I'm saying. But heaven forbid two of you be in a car wreck. I don't want one just not having a full staff to back up these decisions and that routine. I trust that would be normal management. We would all be aware of any crisis, things like that. What are your thoughts on a failure mode consideration?
Is that something y'all discussed, Roland?
Well, we have that mitigation there. If you look at the disbursement policy, it says that 2 signatures are required for the check. Board members can sign. So in the event that the board liaison, which is the executive director, or the treasurer is not available to sign the check, and that's Tina, then the board will ask a board member to help us out and fill in and sign that check.
Then it is covered.
Yes, sir.
I think as much as anything, that was for the public's peace of mind.
Thank you.
Again, I move approval of the COSA-DC revised disbursement policy that requires issuance of checks equal to or greater than $1,000 for routine and pre-approved projects or professional service agreements.
And I will second that. Do we have any public comment? Any further comment from the board? I'll call for the vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That also passes. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Roland.
And then our next is discussion and consideration of approving a memorandum of agreement, also known as an MOA, MOA, in substantially the same form as attached with the Concho Valley Workforce Development Board with regard to the TWC High Demand Job Training Program grant. And for this, we have Roland Pena again.
All right. Every month, we've been reporting on the progress of this grant and the potential project. We've been working with the Concho Valley Workforce Board and the additional economic development allies. Mike Buck has really taken the lead on the Workforce Board and is doing a lot of work behind the scenes, talking to some of the additional stakeholders, the hospitals and Howard College. Howard College also seems to be receptive as we continue to move forward. We began this research and due diligence to identify the project back in October, and you provided the authority of the executive director to press on and apply for this grant and to identify the project. Just as a reminder, these are matching funds that will apply for up to $75,000 to the Texas Workforce Commission. This particular agreement is for meeting the requirement of the application. It's administrative. They request that be in place, and so that is the reason I bring this to the board. This program is a 2-year program, or until the funds have been expended. It is competitive. And we will apply for the funds, and we intend to apply the funds in the next few days. There is no guarantee, but Mike Buck has been working diligently and has been on the phone. He's been talking to the folks at the state office. Just as a reminder, this helps to fund job training activities, related direct cost, including individual recruitment, skills assessment, job search skills, equipment and/or minor renovation of the facilities used for the program related to the job training. You may recall that what we talked about, this was an LVN to RN bridge program. It complements our BREP program that we instituted late last year. I think from all accounts and all the folks that are interested in the project and that have been involved, and especially at the state level, this seems to be a very good, ideal project, and we see a lot of hope, a lot of promise with it. If you may recall, this is to jumpstart that RN program, bring the LVNs from underemployed to being fully employed, and so that will help increase those salaries. Incidentally, I don't know if you're aware, but San Angelo, and this is sort of a side note, San Angelo led the state, all of the MSAs in job percentage growth, 0.88%, leading all the MSAs in terms of that employment growth. I'm going to ask Mike to step up here and see if he wants to add anything else with regard to the memorandum of agreement. Mike?
Good morning.
Morning,
Mike.
I'm not sure what else I can add. Roland did a great job. This is required as part of the grant application process. And so once we have this, we have a tentative budget in place. We should be able to start applying for the grant, I'm hoping for by the end of next week. I've talked to Community Hospital. I'll talk to Shannon today. Talked to the mayor. We've got letters out to Representative Darby, Senator Perry, and Judge Floyd seeking their letter support. So we're building quite a large package to kind of guarantee it through the system. I know it's very promising. The Texas Workforce Commission folks that work in the office that take these packages have given me good advice, and they're pretty optimistic about this package also.
Good.
Great. Thanks, Mike. I don't know if you've seen the Sunday papers, but the Sunday papers are really give you a good indication of the demand in that field. It shows that the hospitals and the local medical services are providing bonuses to hire RNs. There seems to be a big demand. I think Mike said there was something like 380, close to 400 vacancies in the region. At the Ports to Plains event in Lubbock, they mentioned there was 38,000 in the state. So we see this as a good thing for our community, and Howard College as a producer of those RNs to help the need in the medical industry. With that, I can answer any questions you may have.
Are there any questions from the board? Any questions from the public?
I'd move approval of approving the memorandum of agreement in substantially the same form as attached.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
That'll
And-
include the 75,000 coming from the Costa DC, is that? the matching
That
funds?
is correct. I mean, actually, for the purpose of this agenda item, it's approving the memorandum agreement. If we get the grant, then we'll make the allocation, just because there's no guarantee. So but as long as you're aware, I mean, this is a $75,000 pledge per year, and we've already done the legal research on it that we can do this project and fund this project, and so we're just kind of setting the stage for that.
This is simply the next indicated step in the process toward getting there.
Sure.
We aren't quite ready to allocate the
For us
funds.
to be aware that there is a 75,000 agreement.
Per year, yes, two-year commitment, yes.
Now, if in
Pledge.
the future we fail to provide that funding, we, of course, lose the grant.
Yes.
That's kind of a given.
That'll be the first thing that happens.
Roll and tighten up a little bit.
But
That might be
meeting.
that might be the tweak I'm going to do in the budget.
There you go. Okay, well, with that, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you very much. The memorandum of agreement shall proceed. Okay, our next item on the agenda actually involves me. Discussion and consideration of approving a Costa DC board representative to fill the unexpired term of Director John Barrio on the Concho Valley Center of Entrepreneurial, always have trouble with that word, Development, CVCED board. And just for the record, I am stepping down from that as president of this board. I feel it's a designated representative on that board should be other than the president. It's my personal feeling. It's not anything in our bylaws or their bylaws. But basically, to preside over this board, I feel that needs to be an otherwise delegated position.
I have a question. I remember in years gone by, when I sat as president, I had that same feeling, but the thought also occurred to me in thinking about this. I just wonder if it might be a conflict from time to time to have any member of this board sit on the CVCED board. That's a question for the board. It seems to me that could be some questions from time to time, but I'm open to other contrary thoughts to that.
Well, if I can, from my personal experience over the past several years, I guess it's been that I've been on the board, it's good to bring the insight of this board to that one, since we do fund it substantially. If I could compare it to the Ports to Plains, we fund it, therefore we want a seat on the board. We're in that similar situation. At the same time, there have been times when I have elected not to participate in discussions simply because it would perceive to be an undue influence while sitting in meetings of that board. It's up to the individual who is nominated by us on that board to act appropriately.
And I agree. I think it's important to have that interaction and have our input, be relayed. And that way, at the actual meeting, they have some kind of reference instead of having to wait another month. Well, let's see what the board is thinking. And you're already there and relaying that information that we're being represented on that said board. So with that said, I'd like to nominate Juan to sit on that board. Juan Flores.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Was there any other further discussion from the public? Juan, I don't sense that you necessarily volunteered for this, but are you willing to serve?
They meet once a day.
No, they don't.
Once a day. It's a 2-year term, is that correct, John?
This will be to fill my unexpired term, and do you have a handle on what that time frame is?
It's in perpetuity, Warren. I mean,
As long as you want to stay, they'll have you.
I want to say it's an unexpired term, but it is 2 years.
Yeah.
Okay, you were appointed 2012, October 8th, 2012.
So it's almost.
It's
Well,
almost come.
Almost coming.
well, it's come and
This term
gone.
is-
So we,
Yeah,
So,
it's coming
but so
on.
you were reappointed in 2014
Okay.
for another 2-year term, so.
Man,
so-
here I thought we were going to pick Scott since he wasn't here. Yeah,
Okay. And
I'll try to fill
if
your
you decide you
shoes.
like it, they'll probably want you to be nominated again. There are term limits.
Okay.
that You'll eventually time out.
okay.
But with a motion and a second, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much.
Thanks, John. Thanks, guys.
You're welcome.
Mr. President,
Thank
Tommy posed a good question and got me to thinking. We are, if I remember right, we need to review the contract with CVCED.
Yes.
And because I think there's some items in there that are perhaps need some attention. I think they're expired, so perhaps it's time that as we review that agreement, that perhaps I visit with legal and
Yeah.
kind of revisit that question that you had, because as time's gone by, and it's perhaps a good thing to just kind of
And within
touch base on
that
it.
board, there is a bylaws review in progress.
That's correct.
So it does go hand in hand.
Okay.
Good timing. Next is item 12, staff updates on the BREP, Business Retention and Expansion Program, and the Industrial Park Phase 3 certification and Governor's Small Business Forum.
All right, I'm going to fill in for Bob, and we'll be brief. The BREP program has been going well. He has been talking to several businesses, and we do have some potential agreements that are going to be coming forward. We're pleased with that. I think we can do more, and we're actively pursuing that. This is his presentation from last month. And we are conducting cold calls, but really just to let you know that continues. We're pleased with the way that is going. We found some additional tools that'll help us narrow down those list of NAICS codes. It's a free tool, and things just seem to fall on our lap over there, and to help save time and resources and cost. We're going to take advantage of some of these tools that we have recently been able to discover, and know that it'll help us with the BREP program. So you saw where Dakota Coffee received their award last month. That was our first BREP program, and we're pleased in the way that turned out. Currently, Bob's working with them to report on that compliance for meeting the performance requirement, and so that's going very well. Industrial Park 3 certification update. Dave Alexander should be here next month, and Molly Waller, and they'll be reporting on that. That's also continuing to go well. They're about 85 to 90% complete. So we'll be seeing the only item that is lacking is the CCRs. And so we're going to start seeing a draft of that, and you'll see more of the stakeholder work. Most of the board members were involved with that regard, and we're pleased with the way that has been going.
so you think you'll hit your August?
Oh, yes.
Deadline.
Yes. In fact, we're getting information right now back from Atmos Energy with regard to the letter of intent, which is a requirement. With the information that KSA is going to be providing for us, we should be able to move on what Phil talked about, we do intend to have a landing page for industrial parks, so we feature some of that information. So the tools that are being developed are going to be very helpful. In fact, some of those initial pieces that we introduced at the stakeholder meetings, those maps and so forth, have come in very handy with discussions with prospects. We have a site selector coming in tonight, as a matter of fact, and so these maps and so forth have come in very, very helpful. KSA will be providing to us a binder, and so we're going to utilize that binder to submit to the certification, in addition to the updates that we provided in Phase 1 and Phase 2. So we're gearing up. My hope and my intention is to have that application sent by the end of June. And so we'll meet the August deadline well in advance, and then we'll just sit back and wait to hear on that. But we're very pleased with the way that's going. The last item is the Governor's Small Business Forum. We had to change the date from October the 8th to October the 27th. We have been working with the economic development partners with that regard, and the Governor's Office. We have are developing a draft agenda, but I just wanted to let you know in terms of the changing of the date, and so that is the new date. Would love to have you participate if you would like to, with some regard in that event or agenda, whether it's welcoming the audience or what have you. But anyway, that's moving forward as well. That's all I have with regard to the updates. Answer any questions you may have.
Are there any questions? Okay, then we will move into executive closed session. Executive session under the provision of Government Code Title V, Open Government's Ethics, Subtitle A, Open Government, pardon me, Chapter 551, Open Meetings, Subchapter D, Exceptions to Requirement that Meetings be Open. Section 551.071, parentheses 2, to consult with attorney on a matter in which the duty of the attorney to the governmental body under the Texas Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct of the State Bar of Texas clearly conflicts with this chapter regarding matters related to litigation pertaining to Martifer Hirschfield Energy Systems, LLC et al., and regarding matters pertaining to the Economic Development Performance Agreement with MedHab LLC. Section 551.072, to deliberate the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property located at 2009 West Beauregard and the property located at the northwest corner of FM 380 and Gateway Drive. Section 551.087, to discuss an offer of financial or other incentive to a company or companies with whom the City of San Angelo Development Corporation is conducting economic development negotiations, and which the City of San Angelo Development Corporation seeks to have, locate, stay, or expand in San Angelo. And with that, it is 9:53. We'll take about a 3 to 5 minute break and then proceed with executive closed session. Thank you. Okay, the time is now 10:36 as we come out of executive session. On several items, we have nothing to report, but on the item regarding the property at 2009 West Beauregard, we did discuss the current value of the property and its as-is condition. It is a burned structure, and the cost of possible restoration. Let's see, at this point, we'd like to discuss directing staff to possibly proceed with a disposition of the property and to pursue recovering any insurance proceeds that COSA DC would be entitled to. Have I covered it?
Do we have interest in the property?
We do, and we do have an offer on that property.
So we're probably better off to pursue the sale of the property rather than the rehab, and then based on what we can reasonably expect to receive if we sold after the rehab. That's our thought.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I would make a motion then to direct staff to begin the process of negotiating a sales contract with the interested party, recovering all insurance proceeds on behalf of the Development Corporation. And then if you're able to successfully negotiate that contract, bring that back to us for our review and possible and ultimate approval.
Just for clarity, Costa DC is not required to seek bids on this. Is that right?
That is correct, Mr. President. I think legal has something he wants to say. I
Yes,
can
Dan?
tell. I can tell.
My understanding is that there is an entity that would like to purchase, and I believe that price that they are interested in is, how much is that?
The offer that we have is for $100,000.
Yeah, $100,000. Given your discussion in executive session regarding the value in its current state and the cost of repair and the potential value if it's restored, you might direct staff to go ahead and pursue that offer and authorize them to execute a contract if they could get a contract for $100,000.
Yes.
And the reason for that is that.
Should it be no less than, Dan?
Could be no less than.
So let me amend or rescind that original motion since we didn't have a second to that. Let me maybe restate the motion. Let me direct staff to negotiate and execute a purchase agreement in substantially the same form, at the same time recovering all insurance proceeds that would be due to the City of San Angelo Development Corporation at a price no less than $100,000 for said property at 2009 West Beauregard, and bring that contract back to us for our approval.
I will second that.
Could we say to bring it back for ratification in case a commitment would be required?
Okay.
At that
For
sales price?
ratification. Well, let me ask you this, Dan. Since we have an interested buyer, is it inappropriate to authorize staff to execute the contract before we see it?
That is, yes, you would have authority to do that. The entity that is interested is not posted on the agenda or identified on the agenda. That's the concern that I would have. But if you want to authorize execution subject to ratification, that would let the contract be executed. It'd still be conditioned on ratification. And it could be put on another agenda.
Okay.
Dan, so ratification would mean we would place it on consent then?
Right, and it would be, the contract would be executed. We'd put a provision in there that it's subject to approval of the board,
Okay.
which would be ratification.
And then
So it could be executed before your next meeting.
And that would then would that then allow the entity desiring to purchase it to begin doing some things so that they're not sitting waiting on us?
Yes, it would.
Okay. To me, that would be my
Yes.
concern, that we not delay an interested party that wanted to begin doing something with the building until our next meeting. So, okay.
We just couldn't close on the property until
Okay.
the contract's ratified.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe our contracts allow access, limited access. Okay. So we can meet that requirement, or what you're,
Okay, I don't
what
know
you're
if I can
seeking.
restate all that again.
No, I think you did a good job.
I've done it twice now. I went to Texas A&M. I don't know if I can do it 3 times in a row. So can you clean up my words
Yes,
for me?
we're asking you to direct staff to negotiate and execute a purchase and sales agreement for 2009 West Beauregard for no less than $100,000, subject to ratification of the board.
And recouping all
And
insurance
recouping the insurance
proceeds
Right.
due to the Development Corporation. Okay, that's my motion.
And I will continue to second it, without me having to restate all that. Okay, is there any discussion from the public? I don't see any public. Any other discussion by the board? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Unanimously approved. Thank you very much. And then I think there is one more motion I'm looking for.
Move we adjourn.
I heard at least 3 voices on that. We are,
Did they do this, read this 13?
I'm sorry, did I miss something?
Just a moment. Number 13,
Yes?
have you read,
Have I read that in?
yes.
Consideration and possible action regarding the restoration of the incubator annex located at 2009 West Beauregard and any other action in connection thereto, which is what we just acted upon.
Well, you acted coming out of executive session, but you hadn't read that yet, so you might ask for any public comments on that.
Okay, any public comment on item number 13? Does our vote still stand, Dan?
Yeah, you could have acted on it without having number 13 there. If you had a provision in here coming out of it, anything coming out of executive session that you might act on. So, yeah, it still stands.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Okay.
I apologize for that procedural misstep. And we
Motion
have,
to adjourn again.
Second, again.
we have a motion to adjourn and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. We are out of here.
Good job.